I'm Wade Keller, and I'm joined by Nick Barbati, and this is the premiere episode of the PWTorch YouTube channel, 12-minute hot take. And we are going to spend 12 minutes, and we're going to try to be under 12 minutes and discuss one hot topic and try not to stray too much, and that is Gunther winning King of the Ring, and in particular, what options we have for him between now and SummerSlam, and if he's going to win the title at SummerSlam. So last week, Paul Levesque, Triple H, made news when he said the winner of King of the Ring is going to get a title shot. I'm sure some people who lost in the first round would like to have known that that was the stake before they, half-heartedly said, I don't want to wear a crown, so I don't care. If it were real, I could see some people being upset. But that changed the discussion a little bit because people thought Gunther was a favorite going in, and it ended up that Randy Orton was in the finals too, and the feeling was, well, Randy and Cody might make more sense as a SummerSlam match. So it actually added a lot of intrigue to last night's contest, or yesterday's contest, between Orton and Gunther. So Nick Barbati, formerly of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure, frequent co-host on the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show, contributed to PWTorch for years, is my co-host, and I want your thoughts first on that decision to give the winner of King and Queen of the Ring the title shot at SummerSlam, and how that affected your mindset, in particular focusing on Gunther and Orton.
Well, it definitely changed, all things, I think, for everybody in terms of feeling so set that Gunther is the obvious pick. He was the right pick. Let me just say that to say I think everybody was almost willing for him to be that next big thing, which we'd known the King of the Ring in its previous iterations to be, especially when it was a standalone pay-per-view. You want it to be something that has meaning. Now, once you give it the title shot, in this case as SummerSlam, you're really setting it on a path of, okay, who is really, really ready for that? Randy Orton is eternally ready for that role based on the years of nostalgia that are now with him, that I think is really giving him a push a resurgence that he personally has not had in years. Gunther, however, is somebody that even if you don't root for him, it's hard to root against him, given that he's just so good. The quality of work he put into that Intercontinental Championship over the years was exceptional. The idea that this was going to be brand specific, though, is where things really, really changed for Gunther being the obvious pick and where we go moving forward. Gunther versus Cody is the match to see. It's that girl. That's the one that everybody wants. But we're not getting it. So the idea that Gunther will be going for a world championship for the first time against someone other than Cody leaves room to say, well, how are we getting there? And is this going to be a championship win, which is now something that is in question? If he is to go up against, say, Damian Priest, who is the current champion, not only does it visually not make sense, I would argue that Priest is not exactly the strongest person for Gunther to go up against, and seems like an obvious Gunther win at that point. There's also the mechanisms at play with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, the feud that we are all truly waiting for, the one that honestly would have been the feud to fully elevate that world championship to the level that made it on par with the undisputed WWE Championship. Well, that means that either that feud, if it does obtain the championship in the process, isn't going to carry all the way to SummerSlam, or Gunther is going to be added to it, which, you could kind of get to, or it just never reaches the world championship. And that we're looking at a Raw brand for the next few months that has a world championship storyline and then a secondary storyline, or in some cases, some might view it as the first rung storyline, Punk versus McIntyre, just not for the championship, Wade.
Yeah, and with SummerSlam being a one-night show right now, they can get away with having a Cody title defense in the main event spot. And then you have Gunther in a secondary spot, but you want it to be feel like a big deal when Gunther gets this world title match on a pay-per-view. You don't want it to feel super secondary, win or lose. If he loses, there's ways you can have him lose and try to protect him, but mostly you want him to win. If you're WWE in his first title match. So by having him win King of the Ring and add that stipulation, that means that they are ready to have Gunther be the representative on Raw as world champion. I don't know how far back that thought pattern goes, but it also is intriguing because it eliminates Drew McIntyre and CM Punk and Damian Priest, for that matter, Jey Uso, anybody on Raw. It eliminates them as the more likely going into the fall, winter, towards WrestleMania world champion. So the question then is, do you think it's too soon to go with Gunther? Do you think it cheapens his first world title win for it to be for the belt that most people see as a secondary title? Or is this a good way to let him actually raise as I think you alluded to, raise the stature of the title from Raw that doesn't have nearly as much history or prestige.
Well, I think we've seen from his work with the Intercontinental Championship, he is the person that can fully elevate any championship. And I think the World Championship is primed for him to do so. Let me get it straight. That World Championship is not in the dirt right now, but it's certainly not to the level of when you see Cody come out feeling the worth that is there. I think what we know about this Gunther potential win, I think, is what we know is by the time September hits, he'll be champion, whether it's actually SummerSlam itself, where there's still enough intrigue based on the fact that Berlin will be a few weeks later to say, will he or won't he win here, or will it actually his coronation come in Berlin? I think either work. I think the strong likelihood is, though, that he wins the championship at SummerSlam and then goes into Berlin as champion. I say that to say, Wade, because I think it's important that WWE learn from their issues of the past when they've had a monster, or in some cases, just someone who's really on an elevated plane higher than everybody else. You don't need to put too much speed bumps in their path to them actually winning the championship or getting to the big match that they want down the line. I call to mind Brock Lesnar back in 2002 when he had won the championship at SummerSlam and then really inexplicably lost it at SummerSlam only to win it again at WrestleMania. You don't need that path with Gunther. In fact, it would really, I think, elevate him down in a way that's not necessary. Keep him as the champion. We've seen it works, the formula with him as the Intercontinental Champion, and then have that go into the fall and then hopefully into the WrestleMania season, where the match that we know, again, is that sort of real intrigue is he versus Cody. How they get there and have that be at its highest level is with Gunther as an uninterrupted world champion.
Yes.
It would be great if they were both uninterrupted and going at that, but I don't know, if that is the path that's expected for Cody.
I'm okay with that.
But I do think if for Cody to really fulfill that Rocky IV storyline, Gunther needs to be the world champion who has never lost. And WWE's already hinted at that by leaning very much into the Sami Zayn win over Gunther being a fluke. And that should be the only one that exists on record.
Yep. And I have no problem with Gunther winning at SummerSlam, and they don't get around to that match until WrestleMania 42. I mean, let's do a year and a half. Gunther uninterrupted. Cody's got either Rock or Reigns or, and then you can do Gunther as a heel against CM Punk in a rematch if he beats Punk. Well, actually, let's jump ahead on that. What WrestleMania possibilities are there for Gunther based on the Raw layout that's WrestleMania worthy that isn't involving Cody or Roman or Rock?
Yeah. So I think at this point, if we were to fully wait and you could invest fully in CM Punk being that person. I think, while I'm not, a CM Punk guy, so I'm saying that not from a point of being an apologizer for him or someone who's willing for that to be, to the certain level. He does carry the gravitas enough to be that person where it feels very, very main event. I think Rollins, I think, is still in the conversation. If
I should have included
enough to be in there. I think that's a match that happens. And quite frankly, if Gunther is able to still be world champion and operating at the level in which he currently is, there's a real possibility that quality of work, quite frankly, turns him babyface and allows him to go up against the heel Drew McIntyre. Those are all real possibilities. If you're just looking at the who on the current roster that is possibly picked from, that's it. And also, Wade, I want to sneak in there that there's also the idea that the only person that Gunther could win the championship from would be Damian Priest, or if the title makes a switch over to Punk versus McIntyre. That's not the case. We've seen from WWE's recent work with Becky Lynch that they will be happy enough to add someone into a storyline right now who's not quite in there, but still carries with them the name notoriety and the crowd reaction to get them there. And that person would be Jey Uso if they really want to lean in on someone to be a transitional champion.
Damian Priest, I think, has a chance to be his opponent at SummerSlam as a babyface. You want Gunther to be disliked. I loved his line on Friday about how shutting down the chance if you deserve this and saying I frankly don't need your opinion or care, whatever it was. He handled that so great. He's going to be a great heel, but you said there's going to be a point where maybe there's something about him that appeals to fans and they start cheering him. And I think he's smart enough and savvy enough to avoid that happening anytime soon. And I do think Damian Priest has a chance to be a well-liked babyface. I think there's an aspect of leadership to him, and I think people are sort of on his side with what he's had to put up with JD McDonough, and now Carlito. And he comes across as a leader who's preoccupied with his minions, lackeys, or cohorts, to use a better term.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if he turns and he loses to Gunther, I think it works as not the match you close SummerSlam with, but a world title match. But I'm a little concerned that it doesn't kick off Gunther's title reign with a win over a prestigious enough, established enough champion, because Damian Priest clearly is seen as a transitional champion, I think, by most fans. Any concern about that?
Not real concerned. What I am concerned about is there's a real opportunity that WWE will never be able to recapture right now. Is the first time Gunther wins a world championship, and then the idea that he's going to Berlin within a month. There should be someone of a very high caliber to have that memorable moment with there. Because you're right, Wade. They don't need someone of a certain level right now to transition it over to Gunther, but they should want it, because you're always going to have that moment in time to call back to. And by the time it gets to Berlin, even if he wins the title from Damian Priest, he needs to be defending it against someone with a lot more worth to him. And I would argue that person is in the CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Jey Uso, which would really be a come down realm. And it needs to be someone of that stature.
Who do you want to put in an environment where Gunther might be cheered?
McIntyre, of course.
Yeah, I mean, you can get away with that, can't you? You can actually have that match. He loses. He has something new to complain about.
And keep it being that the McIntyre storyline is based around him not winning the championship. That works.
Do you feel bad we didn't get Cody versus Randy? Did that intrigue you? And as a SummerSlam main event?
Not watching the fact that Randy Orton telegraphed that really hot crowd by putting them in a side headlock for the first 3 minutes, that tells me Randy Orton is not operating at the level people think he is.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty broken down and old. All right, well, in the background, that's our alarm. It's a 12-minute hot take. We're at the 12-minute mark. Nick, thank you for kicking things off with this new format. We'll hope to do this semi-regularly with you and other panelists, co-hosts, analysts who are part of the PWTorch family. So thank you.
Always an honor, Wade. Happy holiday weekend. Glad to be here with you.
It was fun. Thank you.